What an illustrious career retired Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Pawlik has experienced. What? Lieutenant Colonel. Colonel. I just wanted to see if people were listening.
Can you tell this is a family?
We do have some listeners. His uncle got him his first job cleaning out horse stalls at the Maston Street Armory. He was 13 years old. That's when he got his start in the military. Here's a quote from him. "My first job was cleaning out the manure, and there was plenty of it." He eventually graduated to working on tanks after World War II, and during the armistice talks for the Korean War, he was part of a United Nations unit at those talks. Steve might not have had the chance to fire any live ammunition during the Korean War, but he sure let the verbal barbs fly off his tongue as attempts were being made to hammer out peace. Here's another quote from him. "I lived there for about a year in Korea. We represented the United Nations. The talks included the North Koreans, the Chinese, and helpers from other communist countries, including Poland," he said. He says, "I'm 100% Polish, and whenever the Polish communist soldiers passed my office, I would sing in Polish the national anthem for Poland, and that rattled them. But Steve's a diplomat. In time, though, he and his Polish counterparts became friends. We were all Polish," he said. "And I'd make them tea that I got from the Australians, and they'd bring me a little Polish vodka," he says. Following Korea, he went to infantry school at Fort Benning, Georgia, and made officer. That would lead to his service in Vietnam. Listen to how he described his service in Nam. Quote, "I just about lived in helicopters. You can see more and do more up there," he said. "We got blown out of the air twice, but had good pilots and survived." When I heard Steve talking about his service in Vietnam, I couldn't help but think of the movie Apocalypse Now, especially with the helicopters and that wild commander in charge of the helicopter unit played by actor Robert Duvall. Steve is a real-life Robert Duvall and the real thing. There's only one difference between him and the actor, and it's a big difference. Steve walked the walk and lived the harsh, deadly reality of war. He knows the true definition of victory. Robert Duvall might have said that victory smells like napalm, but Steve knows the true ingredients of victory, the stuff of undaunted courage, rising from ordinary American citizens called up to defend our nation's cherished freedoms and to do the extraordinary. Steve's one of those human beings. He can, as a commander, he can tell you it's no easy task to put soldiers in harm's way. He can also tell you how it feels to be in the direct line of fire. Here are two examples of what he personally experienced in Vietnam, on the ground, not up in the air. Again, his words. "I jumped behind a berm, and a North Vietnamese lieutenant smiled and pointed his silver Russian pistol at me. He must have been hot stuff to have that pistol. I said, 'Holy Mary, I need help.' His pistol jammed and I smiled at him and attempted to fire my M14 fully automatic rifle. It jammed. I remembered my training and brutally butt-stroked him with my rifle and then bayoneted him. Steve walked away from that. But Steve Pawlik finally met his match in the form of a new enemy rocket during the Tet Offensive. I guess the rockets the enemy was using before then had a certain distinctive sound. but these new rockets, his ear wasn't quite tuned into them. Again, Steve's words. I was geared for the sound of the old rocket. There was a lot of confusion, and the next thing I knew, I was in the air. And it wasn't a helicopter. He was in the air without any assistance from any machines. The colonel and 2 or 3 sergeants saw it. They said I went up in the air and came down on my head and wrists. My back and wrists were broken, and I had shrapnel in one arm and one leg. Those wounds meant Pawlik's return to the United States, where he continued to serve until 1983. So even with those disabling wounds, he again walked the walk. Man, this guy is an officer and a gentleman. He has so many fascinating stories. You know, maybe he'll talk about Colin Powell, who he mentored a bit, maybe he won't, and there's so many others, Omar Bradley, etc. But before presenting him with the award of Veteran of the Year from the Buffalo News, I'd like to share one final vignette that really gives a deep insight into the quality and fiber of who Steve Pawlik is. Again, his words, telling of a special order he received from his dear mother. Quote, as I was departing for Vietnam, my mother told me I should pray. Pawlik remembers. She told me to pray the Hail Mary, pray to Holy Mary. And I said, Ma, I pray to God every day. He's number 1. She said, remember, Mary was a mother. Bingo, that hit me. And I started praying to Mary every day. I should have been dead a long time ago. So he had some special help with him that got him through the service. And so it is a tremendous privilege and honor for me to present this award to Stephen Pawlik, who said if he had the chance, he would make Black Rock not its own separate city, but its own kingdom, and he would be in charge of Black Rock. So he's never lost his Buffalo roots. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the military and veterans, can we please give Stephen Pawlik a hand as he comes to the podium?
Mom, they are.
The award reads, Colonel Stephen R. Pawlik, the Buffalo News 2011 Veteran of the Year. Thank you, Steve.
I mentioned this to a couple of people, but there's an old expression, the older you get, the smarter you get. Well, trust me, it's all BS. The older you get, the dumber you get, and I just proved it again. You had to go get my notes. Oh well, nobody said it was going to be easy. I wanted the notes because I wanted to thank a few folks who had something to do with this operation. And the Western New York Veterans Housing Coalition, the Western New York Heroes, and the Buffalo News, and I don't know what this says, CJ. Anyway, the Buffalo News, and I'm sorry, I can't read my print. screening out this one. But these folks are very instrumental in what you are all doing here today in trying to help the soldiers that really need help. And I appreciate, and we all appreciate you helping them. I'd like to also just take 1 second because I know everybody wants to eat. You know it. Okay. I got it. I'm always taking orders now. My wife and everybody else give me orders. Well, anyway, I must admit, I can say that because she's not here, unfortunately. And my grandfather told me about something when I got married. He said, remember, young man, and when you marry a young lady, she's very sweet. However, she's born with a thing called maternal instinct. And all women were born with maternal instincts. And they die with it. So be careful of that. Because I don't know what he was talking about. I do know now. And he was right on target. I've been married 62 years to the same one.
Yay!
From the day I saw her in Kenmore, New York, I swore that was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. My buddies, all the football team, all laughed at me because nobody could date her, including me. So I swore I would marry her someday, and I did. I got her. But she now, I promoted her to sergeant. She's done a good job for me, so I promoted her to sergeant. Guess what? I have now consular periodically. Hey, sergeants don't give colonel orders, colonels give sergeant orders. Her response to that is, live with it. Which I'm doing. So that's a maternal instinct. It's true. My kids are all left to me now. The suits I'm wearing right now, she bought for me. I have to wear them. And those of you guys have been married for a while, you know what I'm talking about, so I won't pursue it any further without getting into trouble. Well, my wife would have loved to have been here, but unfortunately she's having some medical problems. She's not able to make it. I would like to talk about my other family. And my other... Hey, you guys in the back, Sharp. Pawlik.
Yes!
There's my other family. I need to talk about them just for 1 second, please. My other family are the reason I'm here today, primarily because these are my soldiers, and that included males and females that I had over a period of many, many, many years. They always made me look better than I was. They helped me not only advance in my grade, but also they kept me alive. Those soldiers I want to honor today, thank them for all they did for me and for my family for a long, long period of time. And like with everybody else, I pray to my family, second family, and I pray to Holy Mary to protect them like she protected me. Thank you very much.
One more big round of applause for the Colonel, ladies and gentlemen. We can all keep the noise just to a minimum here for the next couple of minutes. This is going to breeze right through. The next person I want to introduce tonight, one of the presenters, all the way